Welcome back to another painting session and lesson. Today I'll be teaching you all how to make a tree. All the way to the base of the trunk and to the top of the leaves and branches. I'll go with you step by step on how to use your paints and brushes to make a well-formed tree. And as you can see, I already have a landscape painted out. I will have a larger video and time lapse of which I will be making this, but this portion of making the tree and the shadow along with it will be its separate video, but making the tree will also be a part of the time lapse. So let me just skip in here so I can get closer to the painting. So I'll show you all what you might need to follow what I'm going to do. Of course, you don't have to have this material list verbatim, but it is simply what I use. I use Rust-Oleum paint, spray paint to be exact, though they don't really make much of the paints to be fair. I always use gloss to the best of my ability if it is in stock. If it isn't, I am perfectly fine with satin, but gloss is what I try to get. I think it melds well, especially with the skies, and blends a little bit better. The satin and flatter colors kind of act like dust to an extent. The gloss doesn't. It's a bit wetter, so it will be better applied to make gradients. So that's why I use it for the skies and many things other than that. I will have as a palette simple newspaper, and for brushes, normal brushes. They do not have to be anything fancy, though for the leaves try to find round tipped brushes. They will help to make the rounded leaves, and also these pointed brushes over here to make the leaves, not the leaves, the branches. But any other brush, I'd prefer to keep it small in size, but any other brush would be perfectly fine for this. For the tree, of course, it will be dark brown in color, as this landscape is being taken place at night. So that is what I will portray it as. So I will mix in some very dark brown. This will look like very dark black. Sorry about that. Okay. Making a quality tree will take time. It's not a fast endeavor, though you can optimize it to be fairly quick. Don't try to rush these things. So we're just going to start at the trunk here, making a wider base and slimming it up at the top. Of course, try to make some irregular patterns here. Trees are usually never symmetrical, so try to reflect that in your painting. Just fill in when you have good lines with the borders. Alright. Now you'll see me reapply this paint quite a bit. That is because it's very hot outside, so the paint is drying very quickly. So I'm gonna have to reapply it on my newspaper quite a bit. I also get a good amount of the paint off because I do not want paint to glob on my painting. So if you were to look here, I have a lot of paint here. Then I try to make a line. It's very big, very globby. If I try to do it again with some of the paint removed, it's much thinner and well controlled. When you get about here, a few inches up, an inch or so, try to branch out over here with differing heights over here. Now the sketch portrays a dead tree with no leaves, but this one, this painting in actuality, I can't say the word, my bad. This will have leaves, is what I mean. This won't be a bare tree. It will, in fact, bear leaves. Okay. I'm just making very rough branches at the moment. I'll tune them later on after I make the leaves, as there's no reason to make fine-tipped branches if it's all going to be covered by the leaves. I will add the fine-tipped branches over the leaves afterwards. But for now, I'm just making just rough shapes. And do keep in mind, I will have a moon here. So I'm going to try to keep the branches and leaves just a little bit away from it. I don't want it that close to cover it up. Well, I don't know what that was. Don't know if you heard that, just a scratching sound. Where is it? Over here. Okay, just gonna finish up on some of these branches. And try to have trying to have overall the branches should resemble a rounded top, like a half circle. Of course, you will add bumps and whatnot that will fit the style of tree you're making. So mine will be a simple, normal oak tree. A medium-sized oak tree is not going to be one of them big ones. But this would just be a normal, stereotypical tree. Many trees are different, especially with the leaves and how the wood is formed. So do keep in mind, just a little bit about trees if you plan to make a tree adapt for the landscape you're making. I try to keep pine with taiga environments, a bit colder environments, and like oak for more temperate ones. Though, of course, I'm not a botanist or a tree scientist. I don't really know the exact word for it, but I do know that some trees are found in special places. Of course, all of you know that. But do keep in mind that you match the tree with the given landscape. You don't want a cherry blossom tree in the middle of the desert now, do you? Unless you're making a sort of oasis there. Then by all means, you do you. Okay, let's go right there. Have a branch down right there. You don't always have to have branch extensions going up on the top of the branches of the main branch, but always change it by having it on all sides. And try to be light with your strokes, don't press it down a lot. Just a few more, and then I'll start the branches. Not the branches, the leaves is what I mean. Okay, I'll add some more offshoots here. That's about right. Okay. Now it's time to make the leaves. To do this, I advise getting, for the night environment, I do advise that you start with a very dark green. For Rust-Oleum, that would be Hunt Club Green. That is the darkest one. And to excuse some of the noise you may hear in the background. Okay. Now I got some of the green. Try to get a lot of the paint off so it's more wispy when you plant it on. And try for the moment, this is just gonna be base shapes. Try to round it up. Rotate the brush to fit where you want it to be. These are just base shapes, it's just an outline. I do have plans to change it, but this is just a base outline. You could either do what I'm doing now, just make a normal shape, or you can make smaller shapes around these brushes, like I'm about to do now. I'm gonna get a little paint of this off. Okay. This makes it a bit more dynamic. You can extend the length of these little bushes to connect each other. Make them seem bigger than they actually are. Then later on you can make branches where there weren't before. Not only to add depth, but to make a little bit of reason, or just quantity of brushes. Because trees is, I don't know if you've seen, they have a lot of brushes. Not brushes, man, I keep getting that messed up. A lot of branches. Now you may have seen on that sketch above, I do have some other ideas. This sketch on the top right with a mesa and butte has already been made, and I already have videos up on it right now on YouTube, on the same channel that you should be watching on right now. And I do heavily recommend that you watch that, though it doesn't have a tutorial. I think it might still be of interest for some of y'all, especially if you like the landscape. Maybe you just want to see me paint it. It'll be in time lapse, it has good music. I recommend it. Okay, so now that we have this shape is fairly decent. It has some sharp points, layering on the bottoms and the top. I'll just add a little bit of here to widen up that. Now, that's good. I think that's decent. Now mind you, I'm not a perfect artist by any means, or any close to that. I've said this before, but it's been a while. I have never taken an art class, though perhaps that may devalidate me in trying to teach you all, not being taught myself. But especially in this type of painting, spray painting, I don't really find a lot of tutorials just on that, because the paint does act a bit differently. It's not like oil, it's not thick enough. It doesn't get applied in the same way. It's not like watercolor, because it's way too thick. It's not like ganache, just like oil, which is way too thin. It's a weird thing all on its own. So I try to make landscaping, meld it with spray painting, because spray painting is usually known for the plants. Of course I do a lot of that, a lot of plants and space paintings. I do. It is a good majority of my channel content. But the other part of it, a much larger minority still, I make landscapes out of the same material. And I don't see a lot of people do to the extent that I do. They do very fantastical things, and of course they look very good. But it is missing a bit of realism and whatnot. Of course I do strive to be much, much better. this will not be the last you see of me, or what I try to do, at the very least. I strive to make as realistic as paintings as I can, though I am very, very far from that goal. I hope I get there one day. Of course, spray paint can only get me so far, but as of right now, it has gotten me far enough to garner almost a bit more than 400 subscribers. And for all of you, I do thank you for all of that, for going on me with this little journey of mine, if you could call it that. But if you could call it that, I think it has been quite the ride, and I do not see it stopping anytime soon. Alright, so I have, as you have seen, layered 2 different colors on the branches. This will lead to have depth and make it less boring. And one thing with spray paint, like I've already shown you, try to get a good amount of paint off and then apply it, because it does like to glob a lot, and when it globs, it likes to sink and take other colors with it, so try not to let that happen. Okay, so now I have that. I'm going to have a much lighter color, because these 2 colors that I just applied very similar in tone, so it's going to be much more difficult to discern which from which. This one will not be like that. This color is called moss green. We'll have this as a tint. First I'll have it up here. I'm going to have it on other areas as well for depth. I don't want it to just be a 2D shape. Now the moss green will cover the entirety of the tree, but there will be, how do you say, more dense parts, more thicker parts of this paint, like I am doing right now. Swiping across, and also patting it down. And those little dots that you see when I do pat it down, I will swipe across again, so that they may be smeared in a way that seems like the leaves are moving. Though, convincingly, it may not be that convincing, but still, it's also a good way not to just have dots all over the tree, because without this, I would just fall back on this method, just dotting across, and if you do that too much, it looks a bit off. This looks a bit better, though not by much, when I apply it anyway. But you could also see below that moss green, you see the darker colors. So it's still very important that you still keep that in mind, using darker colors below the lighter ones. They add depth and shade and tinting and make your stuff less boring. You don't just want one color for everything, even if you're making a themed painting. Now I'm just going to sweep over here, so it looks like that the leaves are actually swaying off of their particular groups. Yeah, it seemed a bit windy here. Just like that. Alright, I'm gonna have a smaller brush. I'm gonna do a much higher tinting, though it wouldn't be by much. Whereas, here it is. All right. Let's see, that's not enough. Now I'm using a very light tan called ivory combined with that moss green in about a 1-to-1 ratio, so a good majority, a good part of each. And I will make this just over here because the moon will be here. I want the moon's white light to reflect in the green leaves of this tree. Of course, I'll put some over here, but not a lot of here. The light wouldn't stretch that far. I swipe it across because perhaps maybe some leaves are picking out of others, so I'm not going to leave them out of things. Okay, just as I said, I'm going to do this little bump here. A bit more over here, but not a lot. Just kind of wisping it. Like so. All right, I think that's good. Just add a bit more here. All right, now I'm just gonna add those extra branches. All right. Try to have a steady hand. You don't have to freehand like this. What I do is I plant my elbows down and use them as pivots, and use my left hand, my offhand, to move my arm with my fingers like this, so I don't have to do it like that. It's a bit more controlled. Just stroke up. Remember to start where the leaves end, so it looks like it is continuing, not like it just came out of nowhere. Though we will have branches that do in fact come out of nowhere, it won't be the majority. Okay, remember to have, sorry I'm whispering, remember to have very soft strokes. And have a good supply of paint on that brush. You do not want it to run out, because that will probably cause you to press more onto the paper, which will not be good. It will just glob up because the paint is still there, and when you press down it will show itself a bit too much, so try to be cautious of that. Of course, I will have more leaves on top of these branches still. To add added depth, usually I do 2 layers of this. I don't do 3. I think that's just a bit excessive, unless it is a very, very big tree. And I am doing especially a lot of detail in it for a particular purpose. But usually that tree would have a bit more than just more leaves and more branches. Usually it would have much more significance in the painting. Maybe if it's a magic tree, I will have a lot of leaves, make it physically imposing, have some runes on it, whatnot. It'll have something else, not just a lot of leaves. And you see this little round bit over here? They start a branch out of nowhere. There we go, got one there. Okay. I'll add a little bit more here. Okay, it's good enough. I will now add more leaves. Where's my caps? So I'll try to make this a bit quicker, more optimized. Start at the tips of these branches. You still want the base to be exposed, because you would know that at least, you know what you made there. The branch is still visible. It's not like it disappeared again. And it might do you some good to have very thin amount of paint on your brush to make these branches a bit more visible. Make it transparent, if you will. Just like that. Now I'm going to add, where is it? That moss green. And then the tinting after that. And then I'm going to tint the branches and the base. Then we should be done. Not to rush the process or anything, but give you a good update on when this should be done. And that I'm not doing anything crazy. But I do hope that you have liked this tutorial so far, and the painting in general. If you think my teaching was up to par, the lesson, the painting itself, or whatnot, do please let me know in the comment section below. Sorry about that. The camera just got a bit too hot, and so it turned off the video. But I'm back here now. I looked at the progress. It didn't seem I stopped way too late or too early. So I stopped about when I was making the tinting of the second layer, as you may know. What happened after that, I kind of just finished it up. I'll add a little bit more over here. Of course, this is all because I will have a moon about up here. It's also why this little rump, this is a bit lighter, and there's something right there. Though I do think I could have done the water a bit better. It wasn't really about the water, to be fair. But at least it kind of looks like water. But kinda is not really enough sometimes. I'll work on it. That's all I can really do. A little bit more tinting, and we should be good to go over to the tree part anyway. the timber and whatnot. All right. Now I'm going to get some brown paint. This will act as the tint, or yeah, the tinting, or the lighter shade. It will go over here. I will use nutmeg. I'll use nutmeg in this, along with a combination of that color with that dark brown I was using earlier. Especially for this, get as much paint off the brush as you can. So you can make a wispy tint texture like this. So keep in mind there's other branches in here as well, so make sure to pay attention to those. They have their tints as well. They're also facing the moon. Yeah, I'm excuse some of the noise you hear in the background. Starting at the base here and moving along like this. Just gonna spread up that shade to represent the leaves, though it will be less dark than the center line. So kind of like that. You know, all these little dots that you see, that was an accident when I sprayed some of that light tan here. The nozzle had another opening, and so it sprayed all the way over there. I tried to remedy it the best I could, but I can only do so much. So it's still there to an extent. Alright, I think that about covers it. I'll make the moon here while I'm at it. I have this little hole in this piece of paper here, which I will make in the shape of this moon. Let's do it here. This is where the moon will be. Okay, so I made this little spot here with the brush. Now I'm gonna lay this down, have some weight to it so it does not move. All right. Because I cannot paint with a brush in a perfect circle, I have to use this. So I do apologize for that. Maybe one day I will. I tried before and it didn't work. Right. Hopefully this also looks good when I'm finally done with it. If not, I'll just spray white on it and then just call it a day. That's my fail-safe. And I think I'll have to do that, unfortunately. So I'm going to cut up some newspaper here. Right here. Here, I'm going to have some more weights. Right there. And spray right there. I remove this as well. Alright, just like that. I'll try to have some texturing in here. Oh, that's way too much. Some dots here, and then I'll spray over to make it like a mist. Probably won't look the best, but it'll be there. It'll be there. Oh, there we go. It's not terrible. Not terrible at all. And I will add some whites here. I'll just do some touch-ups while I'm here. But after this, I will end it off for y'all. Alright, I think that's about covers it. I hope that, again, you have enjoyed today's painting lesson and session. And if you have enjoyed this lesson, please let me know by commenting down below any compliments or criticisms, advice, or recommendations, all of which are greatly appreciated. Of course, you could simply like the video, and furthermore, you could subscribe to the channel if you like what I do, spray painting videos. And without further ado, whatever painting I may be making. I do plan to make another tutorial for that one, just like have you seen here. I will see you all there.